In 1962, a car dealer in Cape Canaveral charged American astronauts just $1 a year to drive a Corvette. General Motors, they got the car back after 12 months. And that transaction, that single dollar, is the most structurally efficient brand investment in automotive history. In 1954, Chevrolet produced 3,640 Corvettes. One third never sold. Ford, well, they introduced the Thunderbird and they outsold Corvette 23 units to 1. GM's own executives were actively discussing cancellation. The car that would ultimately become America's sports car was just 11 months from the scrap heap. What saved it? It wasn't exactly marketing. Today, we think of this as growth hacking or just growth management. It's the idea that you bring the product team and the marketing team into a single function that can find what's wrong with a particular product and then make sure that we've got the right marketing to push it out. Engineer Ed Cole installed a small block V8. The machine finally matched the promise. By 1960, Chevrolet was moving 10,000 Corvettes a year. The car obviously survived, but it didn't really have a story, an identity, or a myth. Enter Jim Rathmann. He's the driver that won the Indianapolis 500 in 1960. The following year, he became a Corvette dealership in Melbourne, Florida, which is just about 12 miles from Cape Canaveral. His customers, well, they were astronauts. So Rathmann, he approaches GM President John Gordon with a proposal. The Mercury astronauts can lease any Chevy for just $1 a year. GM recovers the car after 12 months and they can sell it to the public. The astronauts get the car. GM bears only the depreciation, and Rathmann seemingly takes nothing. GM approved it. Nobody issued a press release, and nobody even called it a marketing campaign. There was no budget line item. The program, it started with just a handshake. There are some awesome stories that came out of this period down in Cape Canaveral. Let's talk about three of them quickly. One of my favorites is that when astronaut Gordon Cooper picked up a new hire at the airport, of course, he was driving his Corvette. As he slightly slowed at the security gates, the MPs, they just saluted. And then Cooper floors it, reaching 90 miles an hour with a quickness. He turns to Gene Krantz, who was in the passenger seat, and he said, "Hi, I'm Gordo Cooper." What a crazy way for two legends to meet. Gus Grissom, he drove an employee to work on their first day, and he floors it to 120 miles an hour on a 2-lane road when he looks over and he says, "Hey, are you having a good time?" Story number 3 is about Alan Shepard and the man who eventually becomes the chief of astronaut training, John Boynton. They would race every morning on the Gulf Freeway. Boynton says that he clocked himself at 134 miles an hour in his Jaguar just trying to keep up. And later he said, "That, it's just how we live." And according to one NASA employee, the parking lot at the base, it looked like a Chevy dealer. And we just all got so used to it that we didn't really think about taking a picture. And that's why this barely legal influencer marketing program worked so well. Let's take a little bit closer look at the numbers. 1960, 10,261 Corvettes were produced. In 1961, 10,939. That's a 7% growth. 1962, Alan Shepard signs the first lease. Production jumps to 14,531. That's a 33% increase in a single year. In 1963, the C2 Stingray launches, widely regarded as the most beautiful Corvette ever built. Now, with full astronaut program visibility, production reaches 21,500. That's another 48%. This tells us that a beautiful car without a story is just a prettier machine. The astronaut program gave the Stingray a frame. This is what America's bravest men drive. You couldn't separate the two, both were required to make this work. Another example of this type of marketing, let's take a look at 1984. Nike, they sign a rookie named Michael Jordan for $500,000. They built Air Jordan into a $6 billion sub brand of Nike. Analysts regularly call this the greatest endorsement deal in sports history. Jim Rathmann, he charged $1 and he got the car back. Structural difference, it's not the human. The difference here is the financial architecture. Nike, well, they paid for association. Rathmann structured it. So GM recovered the asset and then monetized it a second time, once through the mythology that led to huge production numbers, and once again through reselling the AstroVettes. Corvette enthusiasts know that the Corvette has faced cancellation multiple times. In 1953, again in 1955, again in 1983, 92, 2009, 2012. There were 6 different times that the math said kill it. 6 times. The myth carried the institution to survival. The Ford Thunderbird, it had no mythology program. It had a redesign and then another, and it was canceled in 2005. The Corvette is currently in its 8th generation. The base C8, it starts at $68,000. The premium price is pretty much entirely justified by the 60 years of accumulated brand story, not the engineering cost relative to the competitors. And that is what we're calling the Mythology Multiplier, a single structural decision made by a race car driver in 1962. It was never officially budgeted, never formally announced, generating institutional pricing power and survival instinct across 6 decades. Jim Rathmann, he never gave an interview about the program, no press conference, no corporate announcement. He arranged the deal, tuned the cars to outperform stock, and he let the astronauts do what astronauts do. The most profitable dollar in GM history was one that they never actually spent. Profit, it isn't a happy accident, it's a system. Follow for more.